Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday evening. Thank you so much for joining us. I think it's a busy evening. Is the presidential debate happening tonight? I don't even know. In any case, I'm super excited to have my friend Kristin Sherry with us tonight. She is a globally recognized career expert and a best-selling author. A few of her books have been YouMap, which I was so honored to be a part of. Also, Your Team Loves Mondays, right? Which we're going to talk a little bit more about as well. She's coming out with a whole series of children's books. So excited for those. And also another book called Maximize 365, a year of actionable tips to transform your life. Also coming out in early 2021. We're going to talk about that. But that's not it. Kristin is the founder and mastermind behind YouMap. Not just the book, but the career profile and business, where she has coached and trained and certified coaches worldwide to use the amazing YouMap profile, career profile. I'm also trained and certified in this. It's incredible. It changes lives. And I'm just so thrilled to have Kristin with us. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Kamara Toffolo. I'm a resume writer, LinkedIn consultant, and job search strategist who helps working professionals dare to do work differently. But this is not about me. This is about Kristin and all the wisdom that she can share with you about achieving career clarity, because I think that's why you're all here tonight. And if you have any questions for us as we move along, please put them in the chat below or to the side, wherever it shows up, and we will get to them. All right, please welcome Kristin Sherry to the show. Hello,
Kamara,
Kristin.
and I'm so proud. I know how to say Kamara Toffolo. I know how to pronounce your name. I'm sure it gets butchered like crazy.
You should be very proud of yourself, because it is butchered like crazy. But you know, I'm easygoing about it. I've been called some pretty crazy things.
Well, you know, I have to say this is my first YouTube live. I've done LinkedIn Live, and I've done Facebook Live. I've never been on a YouTube Live.
Really?
Yeah, it's my
How do you like it
first.
so far?
Oh, well, it was not very painful to get my YouTube Live cherry popped. It was. This is nighttime TV, folks. Don't bring your kids.
That's right. That's right. So yes, no, not child-friendly programming whatsoever.
No, I'll be good, I promise. But I will bring solid advice to help you get career clarity, even if it's wrapped in a little bit of silliness.
And that's what we're all here for. And I know that you have just so much that you can share with the viewers. I know that there's a lot of people feeling lost right now in their careers. And I don't know, like, I remember being there myself, and I fumbled my way through finding where I was supposed to be. But what would you tell people? What would your advice be for people to kind of expedite that discovery and uncovering what it is they're meant to be doing?
So I like to ask people to do a few exercises. I'm very practical, so I like to make people roll up their sleeves, get a pen, and do some work. So the first thing is, think about, what did you enjoy doing in your youth? What did you want to do in high school? Or, you know, we do that backwards. What college should I go to? And then what programs do they have? You know, really it starts with you, but like, how did you like spending your time? Even as a child, did you love to read? Did you love to play with people? Were you the one that was always taking charge and leading on the playground? Just kind of think of what you were like. And if you can't remember, ask people who knew you back then. And take that story through until people started to talk you out of the things you wanted to do as you got older, and they realized, oh no, you want to do this for money? Well, then we need to talk. So I would really think about that. And then So let me take a step back and say, I think there are three reasons why people get off track in the first place. The first one is people really don't have a knowledge of who they are. They don't know what their gifting is. They don't know what's important to them. They don't know what skills they love using. And they really just don't know who they are from a personality point of view.
Right.
So when you don't know who you are, you're just kind of like fumbling around in the dark. And the second thing is, I think a lot of people do not take a proactive approach to their career. I think people are pretty reactive. Like, they get promoted into a role and they're like, okay, or people change their jobs or redo their job or move them into someplace else, and they really don't have a big say in that. And they're like, okay, and they go into that. So people just sort of end up being a cog in someone else's plan. I don't see a lot of people viewing themselves as the architect of their career. And I would say that the third thing really is just something has changed. So maybe you were happy, but maybe your values have changed. Maybe the role has slightly morphed over time, but there's something changed and it's bumped you out of alignment. Like when your car starts jiggling because the weights and the tires are off. It's like that sort of thing. So to get back to that alignment again, you have to do a mix of inward focus, and then also getting some outward voices. So for example, you could do a best self exercise where you send an email or text or a DM or however you like to communicate with people who know you. People who know you in different contexts as well. Maybe people who reported to you or who were your peer or who are your friends or who are related to you. Get a blend of voices and ask them this. Tell me a brief story about a time that you saw me use a natural gift or talent or strength. And the reason I'll tell you why I don't ask about skills in a second. A natural gift or talent, what impact did that have? So you want to know what the outcome and the result it had on people. The reason I don't ask people to use the word skill is because people could say a skill that you hate. Right. And it could be what we call a burnout skill. But anytime someone's talking about your talent, you're not going to be like, oh, I just hate naturally building connection with people with ease. If you do that naturally, I mean, you like doing the things that you do well. For sure. That are natural to you, I should say. For sure. Sorry. No, I was just going to say, and then when you have all of those answers, 5 to 10, I mean, the more you can get, the better. Start to look through them and circle some of the keywords, the verbs and some of the adjectives, and what are the patterns that you see? And are those things related to people? Are they related to ideas? Are they related to data or things? Because that's the 4 areas we work with: people, ideas, data, or things. And things could be things like process or machinery or whatever. So you're going to get a sense of, oh, I seem to be really good with ideas and people. And here are the ways. The specific examples reveal the ways. So that's really good advice because we're not objective and we tend to downplay the impact we have. So I think other people's voices are powerful in that way.
Totally agree. One thing that I always ask my clients, even when writing resumes, is why do other people like working with you? And so even though it's probably an answer coming from within, or it could be externally that they've heard this as feedback, but it could even be something coming within. It's much easier to identify or own it when it's through the voice of someone else.
Yes. And you've talked about that in the YouMap book Kamara is entirely too modest, but she wrote the entire walkthrough of how to build a resume in YouMap. It was no small part.
Thank you.
And you talk about in there that it's easier for people to own accomplishments when you've asked them to look through the perspective of someone else, then why are you so awesome?
Right. Yeah. I mean, we are all really trained to be modest. Like it's just a part of our culture. So yeah, I do find that that's a lot easier. But one thing that I really wanted to dig in a little more to was, it was through YouMap and through learning from you that I really saw the distinction between skills and strengths. Like that was huge. That was like epiphany for me.
Yeah.
I had this thought we don't want to, from a resume perspective, we don't want to emphasize things we hate doing. And you put a name to that, which is the burnout skills. But what's the significance of really knowing your strengths versus your skills aside from burnout skills?
So the big picture, and then I'll dive in a little deep.
Yeah.
The big picture is there are 4 pillars, if you will, to what constitutes a career fit. It's how you like to work, why you like to work, or why you want to work, what you want to work on, and who you are. So those 4 things. And so the what And the how are the strengths and the skills. So how you work is set by your strengths because it's natural. It sets your priorities. So let's just say you are disciplined by nature.
Mm-hmm.
That's not something that you'll do if you feel like it. You are compelled to be disciplined. It sets your priorities to be disciplined. And when you work on a team with people who are undisciplined, you're going to get cranky about that.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are things that we have to have. We have to have our natural talents and strengths expressed in our work, or we just, we feel like our priorities get out of whack. If I had a board meeting on the weekend last weekend.
Oh, yeah.
And when we talk about ideas of what we're going to do for the board, you can see we speak our YouMap. So the people who are relational say, we should start having more hands-on ways that we help job seekers, like chat, where we can help them real time. And then the executing strength people are like, we need better processes. And so everyone's priority is set by whether they're interested in building relationships, influencing people, getting things done, or using strategic thinking. Everything is set by those priorities. Where skills, those are learned. Those are not the things that we do naturally. They're learned. And yes, our strengths can influence what we're good at from a skill point of view, but not all skills are something that we enjoy doing, even if we're excellent at them. And this has to do now, not with priorities, but with energy. So when we use skills we're really good at, we might feel like we have more energy after using it because we're so fired up and lit up. So for example, if I love motivating people, because motivating people is a skill.
Yeah.
After I've motivated people to act and they're going to like go kill it because I was able to motivate them towards taking an action, I might be like, woo, on fire from that. But then you put me in a situation where I have to do a lot of editing. Like, oh my gosh, the whole editing part of writing books is like, bleh, I hate that. It's a burnout.
Yeah.
And so when I'm writing, which is a motivated skill, I write for hours and hours and I feel great. I'm not tired. I can write for 6 hours and not feel tired. But then when I go and do 6 hours of editing of my editor's feedback, I have a headache. I'm exhausted. My shoulders are tight. I'm grumpy. Our body tells the story if we like how we spent our day. And I don't think people monitor how their body feels at the end of the day and what was different about that day than the day before when you felt good.
Yeah, that is so interesting. Because like when we think about introverts versus extroverts, right? Introverts are, they often feel they need to re-energize after a gathering with a very large crowd, whereas extroverts feed off that, the energy of others. And so I think we need to like take that one step further. As you're saying, we need to tune into what is our body telling us? Like, what causes us to feel we need to reclaim energy, or what fuels us really? And I never thought about that, because like, even for myself, like I can design a website, but I feel like I need a 2-day nap after that. So, and like so this time around, I'm redesigning my website right now, but I'm not doing it. I outsource that, but so I can do it and I'm good at it, but I hate it.
And what's interesting is the managers don't know what you love and what you hate. So what you're good at, they give you more of.
Right.
Yeah. And then so all of a sudden this person just up and quits, and the manager's shocked because they were a top performer on the team. And and then because it's a caution when someone's we're not capitalizing on people who are doing things they hate doing. And if you don't speak up, oh my goodness, I can't tell you the number of people who say things like, oh, my role is changing at work, that we're reorging. And I'm like, are you getting involved in those conversations? Are you talking to your manager about what you're naturally good at, the things that really energize you? Are you having these conversations? No, they're just kind of like sitting around to wait to find out where they're put. And I'm like, this is a huge missed opportunity. You can really influence your manager to say, hey, you're going to get the best performance out of me if you use me in these ways.
That's so, wow. That's such an untapped opportunity that can be capitalized upon. Wow. Yeah. that brings up something really interesting that I've been thinking about and talking about a lot lately with other career professionals is the concept of advocacy or self-advocacy.
Oh, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
huge on that. Huge.
Yeah. So I think it can feel awkward to some people advocating for themselves. So how do you suggest we kind of like get over ourselves essentially to
Well,
be like,
yeah, I have a learning and development background before, like after I was in operations management, I went into L&D, and the number one phrase we always say in L&D is WIFM, WIIFM, what's in it for me?
Right.
But you know, the me is your boss or your employer in that case, when you're telling them what's in it for them in that case. So it's not, your approach isn't like, here's all the things that you should involve me in, or here's how you should structure my role because I'll be happy. I mean, that's not the approach you're going to take. You're going to say, you know, when people align their skills and their strengths and all of those things to their role, there's a lot of research that shows their productivity and their quality goes up. And there's tons of research that Gallup has done on that. And, you know, people are generally productive about 30% of a workday.
Wow.
There's a lot of lost productivity. And so it's really in their best interest, because if you're motivated and productive and efficient and your work is high quality, that's a win for everyone. So look at it, what's in it for them. You're going to be more engaged too, but they might not care as much about that.
Yeah. So, well, that's really interesting, and that makes me think about kind of the future of work as well, like moving more towards remote work and what that's doing for some folks who actually do better in non-remote scenarios. What have you seen as kind of our work environments have evolved, and what's the recommendation to manage working remotely if that's not how you thrive the best?
Yeah, that's really difficult for people who have a strength called connectedness. They feel a connection with other people and need to be connected to people. That one, but people who have relationship oriented strengths really struggle with that. So I would say that when you are working in that type of an environment, you need to really fashion the day as much as you would if you were in the office. So when you were in the office, you wouldn't walk in someone's office space and say, so what are we going to accomplish on this? You know what I mean? Like, you would, how are you? And so you've got to make sure that the person that you're talking with gives you that time and space. Would you mind if we just spent, you know, this remote is challenging for me because I'm relationship oriented. Would you mind if we just caught up for a minute or two before, you know, just don't allow people to just jump into the task orientation, because that would be me. I would do that to you. So let's sit down, and you've got to take that lead to shape the conversation. Because when I am task oriented and when I talk to relationship oriented people, they set the tone on the call, and I'll notice and I'll observe, oh, this person has a lot of relating strengths. They need to feel a connection with me before we move forward. And I will dial back my agenda and put it to the side and just allow them that, because I know the meeting is going to be more productive if they feel a connection with me. Of course, not everybody's going to be in tune to that stuff because they don't do the stuff we do. But I think it's really important to state your needs. You know, I would really love to, could we just spend 2 minutes just chatting about how are you? And so, and you really have to get your social quota, if you will, from other places too. So I've been Zooming. I had a 2-hour Zoom call with a friend of mine that we used to go to breakfast every once in a while. Since we haven't been able to do that, we Zoomed for 2 hours. And it was really great. And I think it was really, even though I'm task oriented, it was really fueling for me as well as her.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. I guess we got to get creative and find new ways, as you said, to have our needs, to fulfill our needs, really.
Yeah. Because it doesn't have to be your work filling your relational needs. It would be nice if it was all areas of your life, but you've got to get it elsewhere if it's not happening at work. Definitely.
It's a form of self-care, really.
Yeah. Even if it means going for a walk 6 feet apart from people, like, hey, can we do a 6 feet apart walk?
Yeah. Walk and talk 6 feet apart.
Yeah.
That works.
Yeah.
Lots of people do that. My mom lately, she has a group of former colleagues. She's long retired, but she has a group of former colleagues, and they get together in a park, and they kind of situate themselves, and they do that regularly. And now it's a standing thing. They used to go to a restaurant. Obviously, can't do that now. But
Yeah, we do
yeah,
family video chats where all the households will get, it's like the Brady Bunch screens, but all the
yeah,
households, yeah. So my nieces and nephews, and
I love that.
yeah, we'll get on there and we'll just go around and share what our updates are and what's one thing you're really excited about, or we'll try to make it really positive.
Yeah, and that's absolutely key right now is for things to stay positive.
Hmm.
So speaking of needs, I wanted to talk to you a bit about like values. I
Hmm.
I think largely we kind of have a sense of our values, but to define what values are, I think can be difficult. How would you define values?
So to before I do that, to your point that we
Yeah,
kind of know what they are, we know when they're violated because we just
true.
feel
Yeah,
like something has crossed, but we might not have the
the
words.
words. You're right. Like I
Yeah.
did just
So
now. Yeah.
yeah, so your values are quite simply just what you deem most important to you in life.
Mhm.
So it's interesting because I think people do have some sense of their values. They'll say
Mhm.
things like, I don't like to be micromanaged.
Right.
There's a value underneath that. Micromanagement isn't a value, but what is it? Why don't you like to be micromanaged? Because I like to do things independently. So it might be independence, it
Mm.
might be freedom, it might be
Mhm.
autonomy, but there's a
Mhm.
value underneath that. And it's going to be different for everyone. People who don't like to be micromanaged, who are very responsible people, they treat it as disrespect.
Mhm.
You don't trust me to do my
Mm.
job. So you're micromanaging because you don't trust me, and they value trust and respect. So
Right.
it's not the same value, even though it's the same behavior that bothers you. So
Mhm.
that's why you have to dig below the behavior to say, why is that important to you?
Yep.
What did that give you? What does it give you when people don't micromanage? And if you ask that question, people will answer it differently. What does it give you when your manager lets you do things how you want to do them and they don't micromanage me? What does that give you? It makes me feel like they trust me. I
Mm.
wouldn't say that. I would
Mhm.
say it gives me the autonomy to do things the way I like to do them.
Mhm.
It's not a trust issue with me.
Right.
I want people to trust me, but I want people to let me do what
Do
I
your do
want.
your thing.
I
Yeah.
care about the autonomy more than I care about the trust.
Yeah. Yeah. So once we've got a good idea of our values, what does that mean for career clarity?
Well, let me give people just a quick and dirty on how to find
Yeah.
their values. So,
Let's.
sit down and think about all the times in your life when you really were fulfilled, happy, and satisfied. And I use the three different words because happiness is different than fulfillment, which is different than satisfaction. So, think about those times in your life that you really felt fulfilled. And what were you doing? Who were you with? And why did that fulfill you? Why did that make you happy? Why did that make you feel satisfied? What was it about that? And just you dig a few whys and you're going to get down to it. So, for example, people say, oh, I just loved cooking for my family. Well, why do you love cooking for your family? Well, it makes me feel very helpful to do that. It makes me, and so maybe they value usefulness or belonging or connection. I love when we're all sitting in the kitchen and I'm cooking. Like there's something about that they value. It's not really just the the fact that their like stomach is full. There's something more to that, right?
Right.
So um, once you know what those things are, the reason it's important in career is because we don't have flexibility where our values are concerned. We
Mm.
can do burnout skills for a little while before it gets
Mhm.
the best of us, but with the values, it's going to get to the point where you have anxiety. That's when you're
Mhm.
thinking about going to work and you start having anxiety
Mhm.
because it's your values are violated. So your values can be violated at three different levels. It can be violated by the job you're doing. So I
Mhm.
have empathy and I value empathy for other people. Maybe it's not natural to me or maybe it is, but I value it.
Mhm.
And then I'm in this job where I have to sell things to people, and I
Mhm.
can't hang up until I get 3 no's. Like, I have to
Mm.
keep asking until I get, like, my script requires 3 no's, 3
Yep.
rejections.
Yep.
Someone with empathy, that's going to eat them up
Mm.
because they put themselves in the other person's shoes. They know they don't need this item, and they just really don't want to be hounding this person.
Mhm.
So that's going to create instant anxiety with that value being violated. This isn't something that's going to build up over time. It's going to be an immediate, this is a no for me.
Right.
So then you can have the manager who violates your values. So
Mhm.
they call people out, people's mistakes out in team meetings, or whatever they're doing. And maybe it's that you value respect or whatever it is.
Mhm.
And then the culture you're in. So a lot of times people don't know where the value is being violated. I've had people try to throw the baby out with the bathwater and quit the career they're in, and they're trying to transition into something completely different, but it was the culture they were working in that was the
Right.
issue,
Mhm.
not the job.
Mhm.
So you have to know, is it the environment? Is it your manager? And if it's the job, then yeah, you got a career transition. If the job is done similarly anywhere you go, if it's the manager, can you get out from under them? And if it's the culture, you've got to go. Like, you just can't
Mhm.
work in that company anymore, or that organization anymore. So the values are really practical. It's not this like la la la, fluff in the sky
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, there's very practical application. If you
Definitely.
don't know your values, you're going to attract the wrong clients if you're a
Mhm.
consultant or a coach. So
Mhm.
I was talking to this woman one time, and she's like, my clients are driving me crazy. They don't do their homework. They don't take my advice. They just,
Oh.
I tell them that's a mistake, and they do it anyway. And she's like, I'm just over this. Like, the kids are just unmotivated. She's a student coach. The kids are
Okay.
unmotivated. And I
Yeah.
said, well, what's the ideal client? She said, I love kids that are ambitious and motivated and just need a little guidance. And
Mm.
I said, does your marketing say that?
Yeah. Is that in your copy?
Does that say that on your website? I work with motivate, and then the parent reads it and like, oh, that's not my kid. They're not motivated and ambitious. This isn't the right coach for us. So those are values.
Yeah.
Responsibility is her top value. This woman being
Mm.
accountable is her top value. So she can't
Mhm.
stand working with people who are going to phone it in, working with her.
Right.
So it makes you work with the right people. So
Mm.
asking questions in an interview. If you value autonomy, then you can go into the interview and say, can you tell me a little bit about how you empower your employees to make decisions?
Mhm. Mhm.
There's a lot of questions that you can ask.
Definitely.
And if they look at you like a deer in the headlight, they're not doing that.
Yeah.
If you
Yep.
value growth, can you tell me an example of how you contributed to the professional development or advancement of one of your direct reports in the past 6 months? If they're like,
Uh,
they're probably not doing that.
yeah. Or
If
another. Sorry.
mm, no, go
Oh, I
ahead.
was just going to say another example I heard of a bad answer, not a deer in the headlights thing, but kind of just a glazing over type thing was like, well, all of our managers, all of our leaders do their own thing. Like they lead how they want to lead, and that's also a bad answer because there should
Yeah.
be some continuity within the actual culture or a standard of
Yeah. It's a
operations.
free for all around
Yeah,
here. You'll
yeah,
love
you do your own
it.
thing. Yeah. Oh man. Sorry. What were you going to say before I cut you off?
Oh, I was just basically saying that there's a lot of practical application with the values in your job search materials.
Mhm.
You can, in your cover letter, you
Yes.
can connect the values that you have with the value of
Yes.
the organization. So you can say, I was pleased to see that Acme Company has a project manager position. I admire Acme's commitment to diversity, and the things that you've read, which mirror my values. And then you can put, um, for example, if you value autonomy, you can put accomplishments in your resume bullets where you took
Yeah.
ownership of things. And so, yeah, you can sprinkle your values so that they like what they see. And they might not say, hey, these values are in alignment. They're going to feel a vibe with you, right?
100%.
You can put them in your LinkedIn profile, about section, lead in with your values. You'd think I was Italian because I talk with my hands, but um, yeah, there's a lot of practical application. If you are a business owner, you really need to make sure that your values are clearly stated in everything that you do so that you're attracting the right customers. It's so important.
Totally, totally. You're speaking my language because, especially, I'm glad you brought up cover letter because not only does it give kind of the sense of alignment with for the employer, potential employer, but it's unusual. Like most people aren't writing cover letters that discuss that type of alignment with the company. And so that those are the types of cover letters that get noticed and get read.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You're sitting there talking about your own personal values and how they align to the company. You're going to that one next level of emotional intelligence that they're not
Mhm.
used to seeing.
Yes, 100%. Yes, I love it. I love it. I love it. I just wanted to pop into the chat, take a look at the chat. Nola says, "Hey guys, happy
Oh, I love
Thursday."
her.
Yes, she's so
She's
great.
the best. I
Love
think
Nola.
she clones herself and she's everywhere on the
She is
internet.
everywhere.
I don't
She
know
is
how
everywhere.
she supports me on every social media platform as consistently as she does without being
Yes.
cloned.
Yes, yes, it's incredible.
And she does it with other people. She doesn't just support me. She supports like lots of
Me
people.
too. Yes, yes,
Yes. I
yes.
don't know how she does it.
We
She got a
appreciate you,
job.
Nola.
She has a job.
She has a real big time job.
Yes, she
Actually,
does.
I used to work for my first real adult job was at where
Manulife?
Nola works. Yeah.
Oh, get out of here. Yeah, it's not a secret where she works. She
Yeah,
talks
okay.
about it
We
all
just
the
we
time.
just started, and Emily Newbig says hello. Thanks for hosting. Enjoyed these ideas already. Hello, Emily. Thanks for
I
joining.
love people that show up to lives.
Me too.
None of
Me
you
too.
replay people. No, I'm teasing. If you're replaying, I love you too.
Yes, me too. Me too. I appreciate everybody that's shown up today. And again, if you have any questions for Kristin, please type them in the comment or in the chat, I should say. We will definitely get to them. So, one thing that I've been talking a lot about in my past couple lives, one with Diana YK Chan and then one with Dr. Kelly Waltman, who's a leadership expert, is leadership. And it's a really big concept. And especially if we want to make that kind of career transition, we think we want to be leaders, but we're not really sure if that's going to fulfill us. And when I was reading Your Team Loves Mondays, right? Something struck me, which was the Gallup stat, and I got to read it because I'm not going to do it justice. Gallup states that companies miss the mark on hiring high managerial talent in 82% of their hiring decisions. So that explains bad bosses.
Yes. 82% of the time they get it wrong. And that's because only 1 out of 10 people are naturally wired to manage people well. So they have the natural strengths, the natural orientation to manage people well, which means 9 out of 10 of us have to learn. Right. But 2/3 of people don't get any management training in their first 3 years as a manager.
That's astounding. That is astounding to me. I just can't even, like, you give technical training. Most times you get technical training, but you don't get training on the most important part, which makes your whole company run, which is the people. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I didn't. The first time I managed people, I had people I delegated to, but the first time I was actually like from an HR perspective, like the manager of people, I was given 31 direct reports, which is abusive. And I had no training how to manage these people. And it was, I felt like somebody put me in the dryer with a bag of hammers. Like that's how it felt.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, I was just getting beat all the time because I learned very quickly that you have to look way farther down the road than your team. You need to be 6 months at least ahead of everyone else and anticipating how every communication, every decision that comes out from the organization, how that's going to impact your team and be prepared to communicate what you're going to do. I didn't know any of that. I was like, oh, now I run reports and meet with clients. I have different deliverables, but I didn't like look out for my team as number one. And I just got so tired of reacting. I thought I've got to get ahead of this. And I started listening to audio cassettes or CDs at the time. I was listening to audio CDs to and from work. Yeah. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, The Leadership Challenge, like all of these, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, all these different audio books. I got to figure out how to be a better manager myself. But honestly, like being thrown into the fire, if you're a learner and you're willing to take ownership of your own management development,
right.
it can be a great experience because it teaches you lessons you'll never forget.
Mm.
And how to treat people and things like that. But if you're not a learner, you'll just go along completely oblivious that you're sucking out loud, and blaming everyone else.
Well, the obliviousness, it was in one of these stats where you said when you asked respondents if they felt overall they were good managers or not, 85 or almost 86% said they felt they were good managers.
But 82% of people that are put into management roles are the wrong hire. So like something's wrong with our math here.
It does not compute at all. So, I mean, like, you see this in so many companies where they promote due to tenure. So someone who really should not, that drives me crazy. It drives me so crazy. So
Two things, tenure, and then they were a really strong individual contributor. And, anytime I was coaching, I did a lot of coaching of individual contributors to help them become managers. And I would always tell them the same thing. You can't be just really excellent at what you're doing in your role to become a manager. You have to look at what do they need in a managerial role and start exhibiting those behaviors and skills and accomplishments in the role you're in. It's one of those things where you have to demonstrate the ability. So Gallup says there are 5 things,
right,
according to research, that make a successful manager. The ability to motivate people. Now, people come to the table motivated already, but you can't motivate a demotivated person at that point, really. You can certainly demotivate a motivated person. But you have to be able to, what they mean by motivate is to keep people engaged. And that you can do, keep them feeling engaged. You have to be assertive. And a lot of people are surprised by that. To be a good manager, you have to be assertive. But the key is you're standing up for what you believe in, because who respects a manager who waffles on their position all the time? None. But you're assertive, you're direct with respect. So you have to be assertive while respecting the rights of others. That's the other half of that, the emotional intelligence piece. Now, not only do you need to be assertive, but you also need to be a social connection builder, right? If you can't build relationships, you can't build alignment, and you're going to be herding cats because people aren't going to be trying to do what you're trying to do. You have to be accountable. If you are not accountable, if you don't do what you say you're going to do, and you're not a competent person, you can just forget it. And then if you can't make good decisions, what's the best decision to make? How are these decisions going to affect my team? So what you do as an individual contributor is you talk about what were projects that you were on, what were things you did, where you took accountability, where you motivated maybe your coworkers who were, or helped create engagement in some way, or you were autonomously made some good decisions. Maybe with a customer, you were empowered to make some decisions, or how you've built alliances and built cross-functionally. Maybe you built really good relationships with your IT counterparts or whoever. So you want to tell those stories, not the stories of how great you were in your individual contributor role.
Right. Yeah. And that's so important from a resume perspective. From a LinkedIn perspective, from a cover letter perspective, is really drawing out those stories. If that's the shift that you want to make into leadership, so important to draw those stories out
and start doing those things on purpose. If you're not, like, so for example, I was a programmer. I didn't have any direct reports, and I went to my manager and I said, I'd like to streamline the onboarding of programmers that come onto the team. Could I create an onboarding program so that people get a consistent onboarding experience? And we pair them with a mentor. And he was like, have fun. Like, he didn't care. He's like, go for it. So I did that. And then by the time I want to get into a managerial role, well, first of all, that was assertive for me to do that. It was accountable for me to do that. I built relationships. I used all of those things doing that. In one example, I knocked those all out.
Incredible. What would your recommendations be to someone who has, like, I mean, your manager was obviously passive, but he's
a great guy though.
Yeah, no, sorry, not passive in a bad way. He let you do what allowed you to grow, so that's perfect. What about the managers who sabotage, feel threatened, how would you advise us who want to make that move, who want to grow, to navigate or tiptoe around those types of leaders?
Well, first of all, if you're working for somebody who has toxic behaviors, I don't say a toxic leader because it's the behaviors that are toxic, not the person.
Okay.
If they have those types of behaviors, you have a couple of choices. You could decide not to be under that person.
Mm.
You could and just leave, or you could treat your boss like they're your number one customer. Because my mother gave me that advice when I went to the workplace. She said, your boss is your number one customer. And I was like, that's really interesting. And so I had a boss one time who micromanaged everyone, who was sort of even like passive aggressive with them. She treated me beautifully all the time. And this was for a couple of reasons. Number one, I don't tolerate people disrespecting me. The minute someone disrespects you, you have to respectfully challenge them on it and say, I am probably misunderstanding what your intent was with that comment. Can you tell me what your intent was there? I would call people on that. I've never been given feedback like that before. Thank you for the feedback, but what specifically should I be doing better? Like when someone gives you BS feedback and things like that.
Yep.
I have said to managers, I want to do a really good job for you. When I'm micromanaged, I get demoted very quickly and it's going to affect my performance. Can we talk about how can I make sure that you get what you need and I get what I need? You've got to be assertive. And it's not natural to some people, but we train people how to treat us. Like managers will say the most awful things to people and they're so gobsmacked by it, they just remain silent. And then they think, well, it's too late now. No, it never is too late. I've been thinking about is a fantastic phrase to add to your vocabulary. In your next one, I've been thinking about that interaction we have. I'm concerned because I should have spoke up and I'd like to raise it now. I'm sure it wasn't your intent. Give people the benefit of the doubt. Give them a reputation to live up to. I'm sure it wasn't your intent. I'd like to talk about how we go forward from here. And you can share, I'm not comfortable with the way that you spoke to me. And I felt like I owe it to you to tell you that. And so just be open and honest with people, but give them the benefit of the doubt and give them a reputation to live up to. It takes a little bit of eating the humble pie, right? Because you're coming with a humble position, but people are never going to respond positively to your, like, you just need to know that I don't tolerate that. Like that's just, as good as that makes you feel to like be a boss in that moment, no one responds positively to that. You're putting them in fight, flight, freeze. The oxygen goes out of their brain, so they don't make good decisions, and it turns into an argument. There's no win in that situation. Being right is insufficient to being effective. You have to use what's going to be effective. And so you can say to that coworker who's sabotaging you, taking credit for your work, you can say, I want to have a good working relationship with you. It's very important to me. I believe that we can make this happen. What's it going to take? Just be direct. We go around things and we dance around them. We ignore them. You've got to be direct and you've got to be honest, but you've got to remove the assumptions. Right. You're that way because you're rude. You're rude to me. Anything that's an evaluation or a judgment has to go. Right. It has to go. Even if 99% of the people would assume that was rude behavior, you can't label it that way because they're going to respond negatively. So you have to start saying things like, it didn't sit well with me. The tone of your voice didn't sit well with me. And it's really important to me that we have mutual respect so we can work effectively and get results together. That's all you got to say.
I love it.
And they'll think twice. And if they don't think twice, if they're just a complete narcissist and they don't care how you feel, that's good information to have too.
Definitely good information to know. I love all of your suggestions. And Holly Cole says, you are speaking the truth. Amen.
High five to Holly Cole.
I love that. Amazing. And to your point, like about taking the judgment out of things, that makes that phrase that you gave everyone, the I've been thinking about, that makes it so powerful because it actually gives you the freedom to take a step back, reflect on something, calm down. Because, you know, if we're attacked by our manager or by a colleague, our back is up. So we're not going to react probably the way we would like to.
Yeah.
So I love that phrase. That's powerful. I'm hanging on to that one for myself.
Absolutely. It's people will say, "Oh, I should have said something. It's too late now." It's never too late with using that phrase. And also, when someone gives you garbage feedback or anything like that, it's really up to you to have them justify that to make it actionable. So if somebody keeps telling you no all the time and blocking you, you know, as a manager, you can say, "What are your concerns with this, and what would it take to make it happen?" And then it forces them to actually justify and give you an opportunity to meet whatever their concerns are. So what are your concerns with me having a promotion, and what would it take to make it happen? Then you have the information. And they can't just be like, "Oh, I don't feel like promoting you because I don't like you." They have to actually, and then you document that.
Yes.
Afterwards, "Thank you so much for your time explaining what it would take for the promotion. I'm going to make sure that in my performance review this year, I have this and this." The thing, put it in writing of what they said.
Yes.
And then you need to be documenting your performance along the way, because you won't remember your accomplishments for the 6 months or the year, and you know they're not paying attention.
Right. That's huge. I'm glad you brought that up, because I think I want to start mentioning this with every single video, is documenting from, in my world, resumes, cover letters, LinkedIn. I need that stuff. I need you to give me the stuff that you've been documenting all along.
Yeah. And don't save it on your work computer, for Pete's sake. Save it on your personal computer.
Personal computer. I like to say save it on something that's accessible across your devices, so that when you have that thought in the shower, you probably won't have your phone with you, but when you get out, you can, you know, write down that great thing that you did on that project last week or whatever.
Yeah. Forward those customer kudos to your personal email, forward, you know, all that. I used to keep a kudos file for all my employees, and I would drag stuff in that they accomplished. And sometimes I would send myself emails and drag it in, and I would go through, arrow down, and make a note. And they would say to me, "I can't believe I accomplished that much this quarter." They didn't even know. So managers who aren't doing that, like, oh, don't even get me started on this.
Yeah. Because as managers, you also have to prove what you've been leading your teams to accomplish as well. It's not about the individual contributions always. It's about also the collective. So very, very awesome advice. I'd love to talk about your own career evolution. And how you came to be an author, and now a best-selling author, and you're moving on to your, what number book is it now?
I am getting ready to start book 10.
10. And
I have book 11 ready to write, but I'm going to start 10 first.
That's incredible. So what was it? What were the steps or the events that led up to becoming an author?
So there's a couple things. The first thing is I found, so my YouMap says writing is a preferred skill. I like to write.
I figured as much.
Right. But I noticed I was writing every day on social media, and I thought, boy, I'm writing all of this content that people said, you know, I kept hearing the same thing. Your content is very practical, and it's very actionable. So it's not an accident. The subtitle of Maximize 365 is a year of actionable tips to transform your life. Because and that YouMap is an actionable, holistic, intuitive profile. Actionable is kind of what I'm known for. Anytime I do a talk or whatever, people feel like I gave them something they could do. They could walk away and do. And so when I was writing on social media every day, I thought, what a shame. My stuff is all over the internet. It's disjointed. It goes away after time in feeds. You know, I could kind of put all this stuff I'm writing all the time together and have people like access it in one place.
Yes.
That's what I did. I wrote my very first book were the 5 success factors for women, and it was called Follow Your Star. And I told my mother is like a career hero. My mother was a high school dropout. And now she does, she's coached 50,000 people, mostly executives, CEOs in their leadership team. There's no problem. There's not a problem she hasn't dealt with. She's even dealt with a mother reporting to her son and having to deal with that conflict. Like
Oh,
she's dealt with everything.
Wow.
Yeah. So
oh my gosh.
there isn't a problem she's never had to solve. And so she went from being a high school dropout and a stay-at-home mom. She stayed at home with me and my brother, like a total of 12 years. And now she's like this, she's 75 years old and is flying around, not as much on the airplanes now with COVID, but before that, she was flying around to California and Manitoba. She works with big corporations. She's really inspiring. So I wrote her story. And then after I wrote that book, I noticed something interesting happened. People treat you differently when you write a book, and your book could totally suck. Like it could be just total drivel and nonsense, but people don't care. They're like, wow, you wrote a book. That's really impressive. And I thought, people are asking me to come speak, and I was getting more work. I started to get more work. I was like, maybe I'll do this some more, because this was getting me some really good work.
Nice.
And so, but then my number 2 value of making a difference in people's lives took over that motive of wanting to get better work. And like, wait a minute, I can help people at scale instead of helping people one at a time. And then when I realized I can help people at scale, it was game over. I'm like, I have to write book after book. And there's a method to my madness. I wrote 5 surprising steps to land the job now, because people kept IMing me and saying, got an interview, any tips? And I'm like, that's not a quick sentence.
Yeah.
Like,
you just asked me a meaty question. Yeah.
I just sat down and like wrote all of my interview advice in that book. And it's funny because to this day, it's my highest rated book on Google, Google Books, Goodreads. Goodreads is brutal because like you get the lowest ratings there, and Amazon. The highest rated book I have is that one, but people don't really know about it. So that was just like a Band-Aid, like just go get this book. And I wrote YouMap because that's my passion, just help people just know who they are and know their place in the world and the value they bring. But then what happened was I wrote YouMap and I was getting people into these great jobs and their managers sucked. And I was like, this can't happen. So I had to write the management book, but I actually, that one, I spent 3 years as a coach coaching managers to be better managers. So I actually just dug into my past experience. Nice. A lot of people are like, why are you writing these books? Like, who are you to write that? And it's like, no, actually, I actually did that for like a living. Yeah. So it just kind of digging into the past. Yeah. But then after I'm like, okay, I got you in your like perfect fit calling career with YouMap. I got you a book you can gift your manager for Christmas to help them not suck.
Send it anonymously.
Right. And then I thought, okay, you get people the dream job and they're still unhappy. What's going on? Their mind game is off. They're self-loathing. They don't love themselves. They don't have self-care. They don't have good environmental wellness, physical wellness, social wellness, emotional or intellectual wellness, all of these things. Or their finances are a total shamble, or their relationships are janked. You know what I mean? Or so I got the career squared away, but we have all these other areas of our life. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to help people holistically. I'm going to help them spiritually. And I don't mean religion. Right. I'm going to help them spiritually. I'm going to help them emotionally. I'm going to help them with their finances, their relationships, and their career. And if I'm telling you, mark my words, Maximize 365 when I'm dead is what people are going to know me for, not YouMap. And I know that sounds really bold to say because we've got YouMap coaches in 7 countries, but I don't think YouMap is going to be what people remember me for. I think it's going to be this one, because I'll tell you this. Yeah. My own mother that I just told you about, who is like the most emotionally intelligent, like you would look at my mother and say, this woman has her shit together. Can I say that on YouTube?
Yes, definitely. Sorry. It's fine.
I don't use the F word, so you don't need to worry about that one. But my mother started reading the book, and she's been coaching like thousands of people. Like she's the person I would go to get coached. And she was reading this book, and she sent me an email, and she said, I read your book till 3 a.m. She couldn't stop reading it. Oh my gosh. And she said, you helped me realize I still had some unresolved anger that I didn't realize I had.
Really?
And I realized it was because of a disappointment. And she said, why? And I won't go into the details because I don't want to violate her privacy on YouTube Live. But she said she realized her heart was going towards bitterness, sort of covertly. And it gave her a breakthrough that was happening to her. And she said, and I'm going to work on it and rid my life of it. So when I knew that my mother had a breakthrough, I was like, this is going to be a game changer. Because the beta readers told me, they're like, I feel my life getting better, like reading your book. And they weren't doing any of the ideas for action. They were just reading the entries.
Wow. So a shift from
they
just
felt a shift.
reading. That's incredible. That's incredible.
And so everybody who's read it so far or has beta read it has written me and said, this is your best book. And I'm like, better than YouMap? Really? And they're like, yep. And I was like, yeah, this is going to be it. This is going to be the book club book.
That's exciting.
I wish I had done a book club page at the back for how to, book club questions. But what I realized that because the principal of my daughter's school came into my car in carpool this morning. She's like, I've been reading your book because I gave her a copy. Yeah. And she said, and the assistant principal and I have been meeting and discussing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a book club book. I had no idea.
That's so great. I'm sure there's something that you can do to create sort of like a book club type of community, even after
That's a good
publishing.
Idea. Do you have ideation in your top 5?
Sorry?
Do you have ideation in your top 5 strengths?
I think it is. Yeah.
There you go. Boom.
I don't have an idea of what it'll be, but I'm sure there's something that could be done.
Yeah. But what's crazy about this book is it's literally, you were asking me before, like, who is this book for? And I made a joke and it's like for bathroom readers because it's like the 1-page entry. Because essentially that's how it's formatted, right? So like
everyone loves that type of structure.
Yeah, like so this entry on parent-teen conflict, for example, you've got like the title, there's a quote, there's a little like blurb about it or whatever. And then here's what you can do to make progress in your life, like right now, what you can start doing.
Oh, love it.
And there is literally everything from leaving a legacy to how do you save money on school supply shopping to getting more awe in your life to dealing with people who belittle you to how do you ask for more money. It's so crazy. Like 365 entries didn't seem like a big deal. I'm like, oh, I can come up with a year of tips. I got to a 100 and I'm like, oh my gosh, if I didn't have a contract right now, I would quit. This is like so much harder than I thought it would be.
Oh, but you hung in there.
Because I had to, because of lockdown, there was nothing else to do. I literally wrote this book during COVID lockdown. Amazing. So I had nothing better to do.
Well, the outcome is incredible. And I'm super excited for that book. Collier just said, I'm always encouraged to hear an author's journey. Kristin is an amazing, prolific, versatile writer.
He's from Charlotte.
Oh, really? Okay. Do you guys know each other like in real life?
Yeah. Well, okay. I'm not like at his backyard barbecue or anything.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I know Collier Ward.
Collier, sorry. That's great. And definitely get abstract material then, is something Nola said. Get abstract.
Oh, get abstract. It's kind of crazy. This book, they have translated it to Spanish, Chinese, Portuguese, and there was one other one. And it's been featured in like some business news publication in Peru this week.
Really?
Yeah. And also it was in another country. I don't remember, Costa Rica or something. I don't know. Like my publisher's sending me all this stuff telling me that this book won the Pencraft Award for second best business book last week.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
I think it is the second best business book, but I'm honored for the award anyway.
That's wonderful. That's so wonderful. I just want to hear from the audience. If you could type in the chat, what key learnings you're walking away with from our chat tonight. I'd love to hear what you've taken away from this chat. And I know, is the debate actually happening tonight? Is it a real
I think
deal?
They usually start at 9:00. Yeah, but I don't know if I have the emotional resolve to watch it.
Yeah, I feel bad when I watch it and just laugh. But in any case. Oh, I heard that mics are being muted if there's talking over, so
We'll see how well that works.
yeah,
But
right. I just wanted to ask you really quickly though, about your line of children's books. I'm
oh, I'm so stoked about
excited.
these. Yes.
They are literally a work of art. I do not have time.
Mel Shredder.
Mel Schroeder, an incredible, incredible illustrator. I am so excited as a new mom, especially to start collecting the series and reading it to my son. I'm just so excited, and I'm so excited to know the author.
You know what? I might change my answer. I mean, I might be more well known for the kids' books. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Like my legacy is kind of a toss up between the adult legacy or the children's book legacy. But I wrote these books because of Shar Auckland.
Okay.
Shar Auckland is a good friend of mine, and she's a health and fitness coach. And she said to me, YouMap was transformational for her when she went through it, and she started to see all these strengths she had that were amazing. And she told me, she said, you know, when I was a kid, I used to be told that I was mischievous and I was nosy and I asked too many questions. But she's a natural researcher, and she's just come out with her own book called Life's a Trip. And it's about all the emotional baggage that we carry around in life. Great book. I was a beta reader for it. I can tell you it's a great book. But anyway, Shar said, you need to start reaching children. And I was like, no, I don't write children's books. Who even knows how to do that? It was just like, you have to write big things in little words for the parent and the child, like two audiences. I'm like, I can't figure all that out. And it was hard, my first one. But Wendy Gilhula was brilliant in helping me with that because she does consulting with children's book authors, and she's brilliant. But anyway, the big point of that is we go through life confident as children, and then it tanks. And then we go through life like with this broken, bruised confidence. And I thought, I'm going to reach these kids younger, because we form our opinions by around age 8. So I thought, if I can help kids, so it's, you've got gifts, you've got values, you've got skills, and you've got personality. And Lila Smith is my co-author on You've Got Values, because she's the Verb Your Values gal.
Yes, lovely.
So I asked her to co-author it with me, and it's brilliant. And that's coming on pre-order pretty soon. So anyway, the 4 books are basically YouMap, but in kids' language. And I thought to myself, I can help kids have self-awareness as children. No one's doing that. No one's giving kids self-awareness. All we do is, you're special and you need to be kind. Like, we teach them how to behave, but we don't teach them who they are. And I thought that no one's doing this. And I knew no one was doing it because my assistant and me and my publisher tried to find competitive titles. There doesn't even exist a category on Amazon for strengths and talents in kids. There is no category. So my book is like under self-esteem, because there is no strengths or gifting.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's its own category now.
It's its own category. Yeah. Well, it doesn't exist. I have to be in other categories that are not related. It's like imagination and play and self-esteem. It was the closest we could find. And I'm like, how are there no books? There are literally no books to help kids understand their talent. Whatever. So I get passionate about this. I have to warn you. So I thought to myself, I think I'm onto something. So I'm going to write these books. And I gave them to the beta readers. And one of the beta readers I used to work with at this company, she said to me, I'm embarrassed to say I've never had conversations with my children like this about what their gifting is. And I've never, because there's questions for teachers and parents at the back to create social proof in school and activities and stuff to like get traction on this. And I said, don't be embarrassed. How would you know? Like, how would you? It's like, oh, you didn't read the instruction manual they gave you at the hospital when you had a baby on how to raise a child.
Right.
I mean, right? So like, how would you even know? And I read it with my own daughter. And don't forget, I'm the YouMap person. I'm like the person who reads people. And my daughter says, I have the gift of competition. After we went through the book, I'm like, what? You're not competitive. And literally, I'm like, okay, let's go down for breakfast. And my daughter is like, I can get there faster. And she races her. And then her sister says, I beat you eating. And my daughter, who's competitive, starts crying, it's not a competition. And she's all stressed out that she didn't finish her dinner first. I'm like, oh my gosh, you are competitive. How did I not know this? And so we started to have a conversation. And why does this matter? Fast forward, my 17-year-old has competition. You have competition in your top 5 strengths. It's his number 1 strength. And when he was playing football in high school, and they would lose, I would say, "Oh, it's okay, sweetie. Just have fun." And he was so ticked off at me by the time I said that in practice when he didn't have a good practice. "Oh, just have fun." He looked at me and he said, "Mom, I don't play football to have fun." He was like over me saying that. And I hadn't YouMapped him yet. And I YouMapped him and I realized that is the worst possible thing you can say to a competitive kid. They're not interested in being the first place loser.
Right. So true. I can totally relate to how your son was feeling.
Yes. So what you have to do is constructive strategies on how can you do better next time? Not try to say winning doesn't matter, because yes, it does when you have competition as one of your top strengths. And it sets your priorities every day. Remember, we talked about that at the beginning. Your strengths set your priorities. The minute you try to get between someone and their priorities, you are going to lose every time. I will never convince my son that winning is not important. Never.
No.
So how can you constructively guide these children? And that's what I'm setting out to do, because the best intentions we have in parents, we parent from our values. We speak our strengths, irrespective of what their values and strengths are. So now parents will have this like epiphany to understand their kids and be able to parent them differently.
I can't wait for my own learning from your line of children's books. Like I feel like I can do this parent thing now.
Well, the YouMap youth profile, once your son, I almost said his name on like the internet. Sorry. I caught myself. No, I know how you are. I know how you protect him.
Private.
Yes, I am too, but anyway, that's another story. I'll be good. I won't say his name.
It's okay.
But if you go on myyouMap.com, you can get a YouMap youth profile, have your child do an assessment for 8 to 12-year-olds. It's $10. And it comes with a huge 18-page parent guide on how to specifically tailor your parenting based on what skills they enjoy. For example, if your kids have Discoverer as a strength, they're the kids that write on your walls, that pull everything out of the drawers, that take your stuff apart and break things. And you think, why is my child mischievous? No. Go in the garage and set up a play table and put an old cell phone and this and all these things and let them destroy things. But they have a dedicated space to destroy things. It gives you tons of ideas for action, reflection exercises, and reinforcement things that you can do to reinforce their strengths.
Oh, that's so great. I think I'm already seeing some Discover in mine because it's a mess. My house is a mess.
4-year-old is a Discoverer, and it's very tempting for you to tell that child they're naughty. But it's input. In the Clifton Strengths, it's called input. They have an insatiable curiosity. And you can and they don't understand why it's bad to jump in the mud in their Sunday best. They don't understand why it's bad to take something apart. And then you're yelling at them, telling them they're naughty and mischievous, and they're just like, they don't understand that as being mischievous. They understand it as I'm curious. So I'm very careful. My daughter said to me just this morning, she said something about the word mischievous. And I said, you're not mischievous. You're curious. And someday you're probably going to do a job that uses your curiosity to find answers to things. I'm always reinforcing her curiosity because, someone's telling her she's mischievous. And it's probably in preschool.
Yeah.
I'm having to work against those messages, but I can because I know better.
That's so valuable as a parent because you really do have to intercept that other messaging for sure. Wow. I'm just so pumped for that series. That's just going to be so great. So, Nola she said, Kristin is amazing at recognizing skills and abilities on the fly. And that is
I love
true.
that she knows that about me. And she knows that because if you looked at her YouMap, it would explain why she realizes that I do that. I do that. Lila Smith does that too. She's brilliant at doing that.
That's awesome. I love it. So I should let you guys go. I should let you go if you want to watch the debate or not.
No, I'll pass on that.
Before I let you go, where can we best follow you? LinkedIn, obviously.
Yeah, LinkedIn is good. MyUMap.com. If you want to reach out to me, you can contact me through there. I'm YouMap Creator on Twitter, and I'm at Career Kristin on Instagram. But I always give a free book to every podcast or live that I do. So if somebody wants to put in the comments that if they want a book, it can be Your Team Loves Mondays. If the management book, it can be Maximize 365. You get an early copy, or it can be YouMap, because those are what I have in stock in my dresser right now. Put which one you want. And Kamara, you can choose the winner. Let me know who it is, and then they can send me their address, and I'll ship it to them.
Thank you. That's so generous. Thank you so much. I do
that on every podcast because I like to give back.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. So whoever wants a book, I mean, I love YouMap. I'm partial to YouMap.
YouMap is pretty rad.
But I'm really I'm enjoying Your Team Loves Mondays, and I also enjoy, I'm also really excited about Maximizer. And
you know what? You could have the kids book too if you want. You've Got Gifts. I've got like 130 of those in a box in the corner over here.
That's great. Julie says YouMap. And Holly says, which book did you say you think you'll be remembered for? And that was
Maximize 365. And You've Got Gifts is for elementary school kids. So like K to 5.
Right. Okay. Wonderful.
Boys and girls.
Okay. Fantastic. And all the links to Kristin's social are in the description of this video, so you can refer there if you're not already following Kristin. And thank you so much for.
We should co-host a podcast together because I like spending time with you.
This was so amazing. Time flew, and I just had such a great time, and I really appreciate your time and coming on Office Hours.
This was fun.
I really, really appreciate it. And thanks for everyone for attending. Bye, guys. Really enjoyed this. Kamara, you were wonderful host. Oh, thank you so much, Nola. Nola says Maximize 365, please. Okay. Holly said Maximize 365. I think your prediction is becoming reality as we speak.
I just have a gut feeling about it, just based on the feedback so far.
Fantastic.
One of the beta readers, I know you're trying to go, but one of the beta readers said to me, this book made me want to reach out and apologize to my ex-husband.
Oh boy. Okay.
I know, but that's loaded, isn't it?
That's super loaded.
Whoever wants to apologize to their ex-spouse.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And that's a totally different topic, but apologizing really takes strength.
Oh, apologizing is an entry in Maximize 365.
Oh, wonderful.
You won't find a life topic, I don't think, that's not covered in this book.
That's fantastic. Janine says YouMap need direction. I'm going to check my library. I think might have some extra YouMaps kicking around.
I do too.
Okay.
Yeah. I have some extra digital copies of YouMap, but they only work in the US because I bought them on the Amazon US site.
Okay. Well,
if people want an ebook, I can send them that too. But if they want a paperback, I'll sign it and send it to them.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. So I'm going to circle back with everyone who's entered their book choice in the chat, and we'll figure things out. And
if you want to just like eeny, meeny, miny, mo, or however you want to pick them, you can pick and just let me know.
Sounds good. I certainly will do. All right. Thanks everyone for coming. And thank you, Kristin, for your time. Really, really appreciate it. This has been just so helpful for everyone. And I've learned a lot as well. And I want to do this again for sure. So.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
That's a yes for me.
Thank you. Thank you. So all the best, everyone. Take care. Have a great Thursday evening. Bye.